This is the Griffin Realty Group Ask-A-Griffin podcast, episode number 29. We continue in our series about closing your sale. Are you considering dates seriously? Are you a home seller or buyer who has questions about selling or buying residential property, but you can't find an easy way to get your answers? Well, then, hey, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Griffin Realty Group and the host of the Ask-A-Griffin podcast. And to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction, if you need to sell or buy property right now or in the very near future, you can take advantage of our free step-by-step guides waiting for you at griffincourses.com. That's Griffin courses.com. All right, let's get started in this episode in our series about closing the sale of your own home. In other words, you have listed your property, and we are now in that stage where there's probably 30 to 60 days, and you have to take these dates seriously. And that's the question on the table. Are you considering those dates seriously? And the chances are oftentimes you're so emotionally involved in this transaction, you may not be. Or it just might be lost on you that the timing is there in front of you and it's going to sneak up on you quickly. So let's deal with this. Let's help you through this. The first point in this podcast episode here today is that understand, first of all, that you have committed to a contract that includes dates and therefore deadlines. I get it that a lot of people that might be oriented towards a business environment who are selling their property and familiar with contracts or even contract law, if they're lawyers, they get it typically, and they understand the severity or the importance of all of those critical dates and deadlines, and they respect it. Now, I will tell you that there are a lot of people that don't respect dates and deadlines. And especially when you are in a transaction and you can only control what you can control on your side. In this side, you are the selling. I'm the listing agent, for example, and you're selling your property. That's the side we're talking about here. And we are going to counsel you through your emotional state to recognize, look, it's go time. And hopefully most real estate agencies, and we try to do our best, we try to warn you way at the very beginning when you go to list your property or you're preparing to list your property that you need to prepare for success. I think a lot of people are so anxious about selling their property that they don't realize they might even be successful very quickly. In a hot marketplace, let's think about this. You make a decision to sell. You get some advice from your realtor, how to recondition the property, how to stage it. The marketing is done through all of the conversation about digitizing it, getting it out syndicated into the internet, pushing it around through open houses, and voila, you get offers. Maybe if you're even blessed, you get multiple offers. And you accept one and you're so excited and you don't realize that now you have this short time on the market and you probably have somewhere around 45, 60 days, maybe longer, but it's usually inside of 2 months to close. That means you have to move and you have committed to this contract. And a deposit, an earnest money deposit has been paid. The listing agency, the attorney, the title company is holding that. And now everybody is trying to march through this very tight time frame and meet these dates and deadlines. So there is the inspection, which might include multiple different types of inspections. In the state of Massachusetts, where we are, there is a purchase and sales agreement that goes even deeper into, really in Massachusetts, you're not going to get a mortgage company to take a buyer seriously until they pass the inspection period and have entered a second contract called the purchase and sales agreement. Not the same in every state, but in Massachusetts, that's exactly what happens. So we have to now meet those dates and deadlines. We have to meet and watch very closely, is the buyer really truly getting pre-approved? So it's not only the dates and deadlines that refer to what we're responsible for as the seller and the seller's agency, but also the buy side. So there's this crazy orchestration of everybody's responsibility, but we are all in this together at this point in time. There's a general meeting of the minds that everybody believes they can meet that timeline or that time frame. And of course, as life would have it, you might not be able to get a home inspector very quickly in the time frame you thought you could. There might already be that need for adjustment. So, but let's go, before we get into that piece of it, let's say this also. Because this is a contract, it is always a good idea to not be cheap or skimp at this phase and to hire some legal representation. You want to make sure that you have an attorney somewhere involved representing your best interests. Right? It's really important as the seller. A lot of sellers say, well, do I need one? Well, you don't need one, quote unquote. It's not law that you have one in Massachusetts, for example, but absolutely, do we recommend it? Yes. See, the Realtor Association across the country in the United States, and similarly in Canada, at least because I coach enough people up there as well, there are fill-in-the-blank pre-approved legal forms for the contract work that happens inside of a residential real estate sale. However, it's always a good idea to have an attorney representing your best interest and protecting you in the case, and hopefully it's a remote case, that something goes wrong. So we always recommend it's best to also have legal representation. Now, when we are representing the seller, we are going to offer them the names of 2 or 3 competent attorneys who are competent at real estate transactions. And even in a local situation, they might know all of the other attorneys who might be representing the buy side. It's just good to have them all involved. In fact, I feel as a very prolific listing agent, much better when my seller contracts with an attorney, because if there is any legal ease added by the buyer's attorney when they're going through the mortgage process, well, of course it's important to have representation on your side. And that's a lot of the time where somebody puts a mortgage on a property versus just flat out paying cash, he said, right? Now, the other part of this is that if dates are really, if the date adjustments are needed, they must be secured in writing to protect the contract. So yes, we have this very rigid contract that says a very rigid exacting has very exacting deadlines and dates. You want to do your best, but as I said before, there are external forces that could indeed collide with that timeline, and you might need to adjust. But it is critical that all of this is communicated quickly and swiftly. To all my fellow listing agents, you need to be out in front of it and anticipate that something's going a little bit awry. For example, if there are home inspection issues, don't turn a blind eye to it. Lean in and deal with it. Tell your seller, look, I think they're going to bring up some issues because I was at the home inspection and these are the things that the buyer was saying. These are the things that the buyer's agent were saying. I think they're going to ask for some of these items to be fixed up, or we're going to have a price adjustment, or they might need more time to review all these items with specialists, whatever the case might be. Be out in front of it. And sellers, for that matter, now you've heard me say it, you should be out in front of it, anticipate. In fact, the best thing would be, all the way back at the beginning, have a seller's home inspection so that you know what a home inspector would be looking for, and then you can either fix those items in advance of sale, or they can be delivered and the home can be sold as is if somebody's willing to accept that. There are a lot of variables there, but again, being out in front of issues that could be happening, you could be in the middle of them happening, just be aware. It's important to stay aware. And I know it's stressful because you're preparing to move. So you're moving all your stuff that you didn't even realize how much you had. You have dumpsters, you have movers, you have heirlooms, you have all of these things that make you emotional. So we tend to miss the logic and we get lost in the time that it takes to move. Next thing you know, it sneaks up on us. So if date adjustments are needed, they must be secured in writing to protect the integrity of the contract and the deal. It's okay, extensions do happen, but they can even happen just for one of the contingencies. So if we have a home inspection, for example, like I went back to, you, the attorney, and your realtor should be in coordination with the other side to secure that legally, so that all of a sudden you're not, quote unquote, out of contract and it becomes at risk. And more importantly, what happens is when there is poor communication about adjustments in these dates and deadlines, I'll tell you what happens inevitably is that there are bad feelings. The buyer and the seller begin to think that something nefarious is happening, and they worry because everybody's already in such an emotional state. People begin to create dialogue where there might not be any. So just stay out in front of it. Communicate thoroughly. It's not a big deal if you do so, and look for these extensions. And if not, make sure you get a formal written withdrawal so you can go right back to the market. If somebody cannot meet their deadline, for example, for a mortgage contingency, or they keep dinging around over the home inspection date, you want to go secure a formal release of contract in writing through your attorney. That's the best way to do it. All right. So let me go back and summarize this. We are in our closing series. So in our 7-step plan, which you can get a copy of at griffincourses.com for the listing side, we're in the end of the deal now. Okay, but it's a really difficult phase where, like I said, this accordion with all these critical dates and deadlines and contract, everything is shrunken down into a very tight time frame. So you want to consider these things, okay, as you consider dates and deadlines. 1, understand that you have committed to a real legal contract that includes these deadlines and dates. 2, it's best to have legal representation to help you through that, because 3, if date adjustments are needed, the attorney and your realtor must secure them in writing to protect the contract and the integrity of the deal so you don't have to go start all over again. And if you do have to start all over again because the buyer can't perform, it's important to get out of that first deal cleanly and get right back on the market, okay? So let me chunk it up this way. The most important thing to remember when you enter the closing phase of your home sale is that you have entered into a contract that obligates you to meet specific dates and deadlines within which you must perform. Just keep that in mind, and the rest will follow. All right, remember, you can take immediate action to get started in the right direction if you need to sell or buy property right now or in the near future by getting our free step-by-step guides, which are waiting for you at griffincourses.com, Griffin courses.com. Also, don't forget, you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you might be listening to podcasts so that you don't miss out on any of the insights each time we upload an episode. We also post all of our episodes on our social media channels and our website, thegriffin.co, on our blog. So remember, you can turn on the notifications for Griffin Realty Group and you won't miss any reminders. We'd also appreciate it if you would share our content with other people just like you so that they get the help that they need. Hey, thanks for listening, but remember, nobody's coming for you. So go take action yourself, get the copy of these plans, and get to work preparing for this process for buying or selling property, whatever it might be. And we will see you with some more helpful tips in the next episode. Thanks for listening.